Steve, boy, this is a big one.
Yeah, Kristen, the numbers say it. It is a tie game here weeks before the election, and it's that shift. Our last poll taken in the wake of that September debate, Harris had opened up that advantage over Trump. Gone in our new poll. What goes into that? What's behind that? I think this one is revealing. This is the basic perception voters have of these candidates. Is it positive? Is it negative? Now, these are not great numbers for either one. Trump 43 positive, 51 negative. He's 8 points underwater, you might say. But look at Harris. Exact same positive score and that negative number almost in the exact same place. And this is it. The last time we polled this question after that debate, Harris had really made up ground in this area. Look, she had a positive rating, 48 to 45. So that advantage has all in the last few weeks in our poll washed away for her. Then there's some issues, some characteristics here. These are advantages in red here that you see for Trump now versus September. On the immigration and the border, we ask voters who would be better on this. In September, Trump had a big advantage. It's gotten bigger. On inflation and the cost of living, Trump's advantage now hits double digits. And on the question of who represents change, Harris had the advantage in September. She still does, but lower.
Wow. That's good news here in the war. I want to bring Mark Mitchell in. And Brother Mark, what's the chessboard look like to you? There seems to be a consensus forming that Trump's rising and Kamala Harris is falling.
Isn't it miraculous? And this is exactly what I predicted would happen. So I want to take a bit of a victory lap here. Before I do, don't forget to remind me about Pennsylvania. We have new numbers out today that I'm going to break on your show, exclusive. But we laid this out in the war room back in July. And we said, listen, Harris is a little bit better of a candidate than Biden. Trump was up about 5 over Biden, and we thought the race was going to tighten to about 2 points. Fast forward for the next 2 months, and everybody's seen our daily numbers coming out, and the race did indeed tighten, but it's been locked in at 2 points. But what I predicted is, we all know that this is a referendum on the Biden administration. We all know that there's zero substance to Kamala Harris's campaign. And I never thought that the media was going to be able to pull her all of the way out of August, all the way to Election Day, without her being exposed as this inauthentic creature of the media. And I basically called it the loser narrative because I thought at some point the media, any of them with a shred of credibility left, are going to have to start preparing their viewers for what appears to be right now, barring 9 trucks full of 1 million ballots each, an inevitable Trump win. And I can tell you from a polling perspective, Scott Adams called this too, the great pollster true up. And it all started. This whole thing came together last Monday when you started to see CNN with headlines like warning signs for the Kamala Harris campaign. And now poll after poll being dropped on Real Clear Politics right now are more and more favorable to Trump. Well, I can tell you on a national level, the race really hasn't changed. But you see NBC News, who had Harris up 5, just dropped a poll that showed the national popular vote tie. That's a Trump win. You see ABC News Ipsos has Harris +2. They had Harris, I think, all the way out at Harris +6. CBS News, Mark, Harris +3. Yeah.
Let me ask you something important here, though, because I want to make sure this is not the red wave redux from 2022 that never materialized. How does the polling you're reporting now compare with what we were seeing in the few days leading up to the 2022 race when everybody thought the Republicans were going to just stylize?
So, in my opinion, after the Dobbs decision, the polling didn't necessarily support a red wave. I will say that our polling was too far to the right. It was about 1.5 points. If you measure and average everything that we polled in September and October, the numbers were kind of all over the place. We had Republicans +1 all the way up to Republicans +7. I think our final average is about +4. The final was about 2.8. The thing is, though, is that you can't poll every single congressional district, and it did show positive setting for the Republicans, but nothing like it did right after the crisis in Afghanistan, when everybody was seeing Republicans +10 or Republicans +13 in the polls. I will say the polling all tightened up, and it came down to essentially Trump wasn't on the ballot, so Republicans didn't outperform their polling like they did in 2016 and 2020 when Trump was on the ballot. Now, before we get into states, though, I will just say from a national perspective, when you have Quinnipiac, Yahoo News, NBC News, and New York Times Siena, basically, I think they're going to move right too. And when you have all lefties saying that the national popular vote is essentially a tie, when 4 years ago Clinton was up 8 years ago, and 4 years ago Biden was up 9, Harris is only up 1.7 now. But the problem is I don't think you've seen the full cycle of them all correcting to the right, because the writing is on the wall. If you look at Pennsylvania on Real Clear Politics, the writing is on the wall. They need to steal Pennsylvania or they lose, in my opinion. And I just had a poll.
Now that's your segue. That is your segue, brother. You got breaking news for the posse. Tell us.
Yeah,
Pennsylvania.
I'd love to get into this. So in September, we polled Pennsylvania. We had a tied race. That was probably a bad time to poll for Trump. It was right after the debate, and it did seem that there was some kind of response bias. Our poll back then was flooded with lefties. I was never really happy with that sample. But looking at it now, today, as of last night, we have Donald Trump up 50-47 by 3 points, just at the margin of error in Pennsylvania. And we have McCormick down, I think this is about a 1.5 rounds to 2, and Republicans up 3 points on the generic ballot. And that is right in the strike zone of where everybody's coming out now. Hill, Emerson, they lean a tiny bit left, I think. They have Trump up 1, Insider Advantage, Trump up 2, Trafalgar, Trump up 3, Atlas Intel, Trump up 3. We got Trump up 3 now too. I mean, this is really starting to look like a solid. Did you do anything with
Scott Perry? Did you do anything with Scott Perry in the state?
No, I didn't.
He's in a dogfight. Okay.
Yeah. Well, ultimately what it comes down to, I think most of the people answering these polls, everybody knows who Trump and Harris are. That's who's driving, like how they decide. I think the straight ticket is going to help a lot of these, Senate races and other races a lot more than the polling suggests currently. But again, like, this is an incontrovertible Trump win in the polls. He's never been up in Pennsylvania in the polls. I mean, it's like insane when you look at this point. 8 years ago, Hillary Clinton was favored by 8 and she lost by 1, and Biden was up by 7 and he won by 1. So there's an 8-point and a 6-point polling miss there for you. If there's any polling miss, we're talking about massive, and again, like, nobody's saying a red wave here. The media narrative is Trump is tied because they need it to say that Trump is tied. But in the betting markets, and right now, looking at this on Real Clear Politics, Trump is up in Pennsylvania. New York Times,
Mark,
the number one.
We got 80 seconds. Do you have any thing on North Carolina or Wisconsin?
Those are going to be coming out tonight and tomorrow, so everybody should come to RasmussenReports.com. This Pennsylvania one will be posted in the next couple hours. A lot of really great and troubling stuff in there. We now have 46% of Pennsylvania voters think that a civil war or revolution is coming in the next few years. A lot of interesting things in there about the issues as well, so people really want to come and check it out. Let's
get you back on Wednesday, if we can, and have you go over the Wisconsin, North Carolina. Any other numbers, Wisconsin, North Carolina, anything in the new besides those two?
No. Pennsylvania is the first one. It's one that everybody's going to focus on. I'm doing North Carolina next. I think that's a really important state to watch.
All right, brother. Let the War Room now know how to get in touch with you and follow you, sir.
Yeah, Rasmussen_poll at Twitter. Also, Mark_R_Mitchell. Go to YouTube. Also, I'll be going through all the crosstabs today in a video.
All right, my brother, thank you as always for coming on and sharing your wisdom with the posse.